It's the data that matters with the insights and then driving those decisions forward. For me, I have an engineering background, so I love data. Switched over to marketing so I can bring it to life. But outside of that, it's making sure that we're doing the right things at the right time and intentionally. And so our portfolio isn't leaving one consumer behind. It's just following the trends and making those decisions that make the most sense. We created a campaign called Built for It Proud. And I'm using the word intentional again because it was very, very intentional. We did a lot of work to really understand, like, as employees, how do you feel working at Ford? One, people have been at Ford for a long time. There aren't, those people that just come in and come out. It's a true family. We came up with different mantras and things of that nature, but then we also tested it with consumers, and we have a very strong consumer following. When you get into a Ford, you come back for another one. Our first campaign that we launched last fall was called Built for It Proud, and it is such a rich campaign because it truly follows our brand DNA, internal and external. So we enlisted the help of a gentleman by the name of Bryan Cranston. So if those of you may know him, Mr. Breaking Bad. Part of using someone with like this swagger and this kind of, tough persona was to help us like hold our heads high. This was an opportunity for us to take something that we're very proud of, that heritage, that history, but also show like how we're moving forward into the future and making it very relevant.
When we say diverse in 2019 and move beyond, it's not just ethnic, but it is ethnic, but gender, primarily women, right? Because we have to all get in the game here and realize that women register 42% of all new vehicles in this country, right? And more importantly, they drive 85% of all new vehicle deals. Last year, our data showed, and I've heard everybody before us talk about how data is driving everything. Well, the data shows that the industry was down about 0.8 of a point, 1% last year overall, which is primarily, when you look at general market, primarily Caucasian driven, versus African Americans, Asian Hispanics were up 3.5% last year. So let's talk about what you and Ford are doing to better connect with the fast-growing, diverse consumer.
There are other insights that are very rich, and we've talked about that today, and I've seen it in the presentations about what are those psychographics and how do we want to represent women, how do we want to represent African American women, how do we want to represent African American men, and just making sure that whatever it is that we do from a campaign standpoint, we are speaking directly to them, but then they're showing up in ways that they want to see themselves. What we needed to do is, okay, we need a recognizable person to help us carry the message, but then also be true to the data and the insights that are important to show up in the ways that we need to. So the next spot I'll show is called We Lead, and it has the voiceover of Miss Angela Bassett. So for our Hispanic consumers, it's the same, deal. Like, their pride is based on community, their families, working hard. And so we have a complete portfolio for our Hispanic consumers as well. And one thing that makes this campaign so important is that in LA, 50% of our Hispanic consumers will come from this market. And so it was very important that we showed those consumers in the ways that, that's how their lifestyle is and not something that doesn't resonate with those consumers.
I'm going to share some facts and I'm going to ask for some crowd participation. The top 3 selling vehicles in the country are the F-150, the Chevy Silverado, and the Dodge Ram. But I found something really interesting as a student of the data, that over the past years, I'm going to say 10, 20 years, there's been hundreds of millions of dollars spent on campaigns for what we call general market national campaigns to convince Caucasian consumers and the general market to buy pickups. There's always been this long thought, which is now past, right, that Hispanics live and die for pickups. So all the Hispanic agencies got their fair share of full-size pickup campaigns for Hispanics or Latinas. Got it, keep doing it. But African Americans, although we're a little late to the game, have an organic affinity for full-size pickup trucks. But to my dismay and a little bit disappointment, I found since the history of automobiles, there have been how many campaigns for African Americans for full-size pickups? Let me hear you. No, I can't hear you. Say it one more time. 0 until this year. So I'm asking everybody in here, one time, please, stand on your feet and join me in a real loud round of applause. Everybody, give a big round of applause to Raj Register and Ford for doing the first ever African-American full-size pickup campaign in the history of automobiles. Give it up.
And so back to the data and the insights, I did a bunch of research with my agency partners at Uniworld, And we found that these consumers, they use the trucks very differently. So it wasn't about construction and hauling and things of that nature. It was more about lifestyle, how the vehicle looked, the technology, being able to carry their family, but also a status symbol. And then I thought about it. My husband was driving an F-150, and he didn't haul a thing in it. He didn't want anything in the back of it. He didn't want it touched. The wheels were tight. So I'm like, oh, so I'm living with the target customer, and I wasn't paying attention. And then there was also this other group of people that build the vehicles, and they're on the lines, and they're very proud to, again, it goes back to that pride, they're very proud to be a part of the F-150 family. And so we were able to utilize real employees. We went into our Rouge plant. We filmed the commercial partly in Detroit just to give that nod and that homage. Still utilizing the voice of Miss Angela Bassett, because as Marc said, women are still the power of influence. And he mentioned, 80, I think you said 85%. For African Americans, 92%, I believe, is the number of the power of influence of women. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we kept true to that, but then also paid really, good homage to the F-150 spot. So I'm going to show that.
History of the making, right here at ThinkLA.
It's called
Run
Ode
it.
to the Builders.
ThinkLA, it's been a great pleasure. Take care. God bless.